Not all games get a fair chance. A lot more than just quality gameplay goes into making a franchise popular. In fact, a marketable concept or name brand title goes much further than the actual contents of the game itself. It's why New Super Mario Bros. Number 15.5 will outsell whatever the actual best platformer of the year is by a few million. For example, a game like Pokemon just has such a snappy name and likable concept, it has a much greater chance of getting popular than a game called, I don't know, Summon Night Swordcraft Story. What a good transition. Swordcraft Story is a trilogy within a hexology. The original 6 Summer Night games are apparently RPG dating simulators that branched off into a more traditional JRPG style around 2003 for the Game Boy Advance. The franchise has gained a small following but performed so mediocre in the West that the third in the trilogy wasn't even released outside of Japan, and only exists due to fan translations. Swordcraft Story opens up like all great RPGs do, chilling in your room and then going downstairs to talk with your mother. Through dialogue, it's revealed that your main character is a craft knight, which is a sort of hybrid between being a blacksmith and a knight. The main goal of the series is to become a craft lord, because your father's one, and you want to get closer to your dad by pursuing the same dream as him. Basically, it's Hunter x Hunter, but you're crafting swords with a magic sidekick. There are 3 main pieces that make up the bulk of Swordcraft's gameplay: dungeon crawling, tournament battles, and side quests. You need to beat the tournament to become a craft lord, but to get from one fight to the other, you'll need to grind side missions and the dungeon. The most notable thing that separates Swordcraft Story from other RPGs is the combat. When you encounter an enemy, it takes you into a flat plane where you have to fight them in real time. When I first tried the combat, I thought, this fucking sucks. And then I crafted my first sword. And then I crafted my first spear. And then I got a drill and started shooting goddamn laser beams and fireballs. While clunky at first, the variety of combat keeps each encounter in the game fresh. There are 5 different weapon types and 12 different spells, meaning you can completely customize the way you enter each fight. Spears are best for zoning, but are lackluster when it comes to damage. Gauntlets are great for comboing, swords are in the middle, and axes, while being slow, do much more damage. And drills suck. During each fight, you can only use 5 spells before you run out, which makes choosing the game with healing items and spells impossible. For each weapon type, you can learn dozens of different weapons, each with different attack speeds, power, and durability. I know, durability in games usually makes me want to down a bottle of Drano, but it actually adds some nice variety to the game. Durability resets after each fight, but if your bar depletes to 0 during it, your weapon will be permanently broken. Which means that for grinding, where you only use your weapons for brief fights, low durability weapons with high attack are perfect. But for long missions or boss fights, it's better to choose weapons that will last you longer, even if you sacrifice attack. I think in general, the battles strike a nice balance between not being too easy and not too difficult. You'll definitely have your ass whooped a few times and have some close calls, but it never feels unfair. The AI is surprisingly effective at countering you for a Game Boy Advance game, and there's enough variety of enemies to keep things interesting. Something I wish there was more variety of is art. You spend 90% of your game walking around this one town, because that's where the tournament and dungeon is. Because of that, you spend most of the game staring at these same brown houses. Every once in a while you get to explore a new city, and it just teases how cool the game could have been if you could travel freely. What really pushes you through the game is the feeling of progression it provides. After each major plot point, you get a key that lets you go deeper into the dungeon. As you collect materials in the dungeon, you can make better weapons. In a lot of games, you need a PhD in engineering and 20 days of game experience to scratch the surface of the crafting system. But Swordcraft Stories is pretty intuitive. You get materials at random, and you can either craft something or you need to grind more. Speaking of, random encounters happen at way too high a frequency. Since the dungeon is absolutely enormous and you can't see all of each room, hang on. As I was saying, you can't see all of each- It's really hard to get around because every 10th step you take, you get an encounter. I'd say the game's biggest issue is its story. It's not bad per se, it's just really middling. You're a fatherless, hyper kid with an unrealistic dream, asshole rival, and wise master. You're trying to save the world from Groudon or something, I don't know. There's an antagonist named Lubert, who's evil because his name is fucking Lubert. You'll get bombarded with a lot of dialogue that you sort of care about, but not really. It feels like you're almost grinding the story to get to the fun bits. That pretty much summarizes my review. I kinda suck at giving scores to video games, but I would give it roughly a 7. Bye.